Hey everybody, I'm Chad Eckert and that's Joe Idone and you are listening or watching the Preferred Lines podcast. This podcast can be found on iTunes or YouTube and you can follow us on Twitter at Preferred Lines. We did it. We got through the lull of the year, the 3M Open.
It wasn't too much action there, was there?
You know, it's my backyard, so I pretend I love it the most, but it is pretty bad. You could have had a 100-1 winner this year. You could have had Michael Thompson.
Yeah, it could have been somebody cashed a serious long shot ticket. I don't know anybody who was on Michael Thompson, but there were some signs there, believe it or not. He had played kind of well. Whether or not I thought Michael Thompson was going to pull this out, I don't know. No. Good for him. Good for him. It was nice to see him kind of enjoy it and the tears in his eyes. You could see how much it meant to him getting his second win. I was actually at the tournament at the Honda that he won way back like 7 years ago. So it was kind of cool and back in the winner's circle. Good for him.
Yeah, we're fans of Michael Thompson on the Fantasy Golf Pod. That's one of our favorite guys because he's just a nice guy. We like things that are past stats, just into motivations, and just a good person deserves win every once in a while. But that means it's kind of boring. And I doubled down and went on Tony. I added some money to Wolf and was just hoping for a collapse, but whatever. Sometimes you lose. We haven't had one of those losing weeks in a while, Joe.
Everybody loses, man. It happens. I had a nice sweat with Homa as well. Gave me a little bit of run for my action, but it was I don't know. It was a forgetful tournament in the end, sure. I think.
We are coming up now on, this is a big episode today, the WGC FedEx St. Jude with our guest, Joe Nicely. We even have a bigger event next week. It's back-to-back big events next week. The first major, the PGA Championship from the West Coast, where we're having dinner while watching the back nine. It's beautiful. We love that, don't we, Joe?
Oh, it's awesome. It's the best. Love the late starts. Sometimes I do miss the waking up early morning sweats though. But it'll be nice to have dinner and watch these guys play it down. I'm excited to see Harding Park, a new sort of course in the rotation we haven't seen since match play years ago. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to Joe too. Let's get to it.
Okay. So we, every week on the Preferred Lines, we're bringing in a real expert because Joe, you and I, we're hashtag not touts. We're just doing this for fun. We're guys that watch golf, play golf, and are immersed in golf. But are we really experts? Not really. Is Joe Nicely? Well, certainly writes for a real website and has some credentials. So we got Joe Nicely, Rotoballer. I think he's the managing editor, the main guy for the PGA over there. This guy's amazing, and he comes on our podcast. This is great.
Yeah, he's the best. Let's go talk to him, and we're down in his neck of the woods, down in good old Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, here we go. Joe Nicely. Okay, welcome. This week's guest is a contributor to Rotoballer.com, the co-host of a new fantasy golf podcast called The Turn. The nicest guy in fantasy, Joe Nicely, at Joe Nicely on Twitter. Joe, cheers.
Hey guys, what's up?
Tell us quickly about your new podcast, dude. You're doing what we're doing, like pretending to do things on the internet.
Yeah, we're definitely pretending. We're nowhere near the level of you guys. Just a buddy and I, a childhood friend that's still a friend today, who's an excellent golfer. Just something we wanted to do. Just having fun with it. It's called The Turn. You can go check it out on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Just having fun with it.
And iTunes. No?
Yeah, iTunes, all that good stuff.
Yeah, go there. Find that, The Turn. And Joe, you know the drill. We know you. We've seen you before. You've been on the Fantasy Golf Pod interview series, so we know you as a bit of a slow talker. And, I tend to talk really fast and go kind of hyper on this stuff because we want to get through things. I know about duration times. Those are important. YouTube algorithms. So we're trying to go through questions with you as fast as possible. Get your take on the WGC. Does that make sense?
It does, man. I'll try to speed it up for you.
Hey, just be you, man.
Speaking of which, as a guest that's coming back, I can't believe you guys had me on the week after Christina Kim. That's putting pressure on me, man. Come on. I mean, who you got on next week? Michelle Wee?
Oh, you
It's
better
pretty,
wait and see.
yeah, it's pretty big shoes to fill, but we're looking forward to talking to you. All right, you ready to get started?
Ready, shoot.
All right. So excited to talk to you. I've followed you for a long time. Wanted to know a little bit about how you got started at Rotoballer. Tell us about it and what you guys got going on over there.
Yeah, man. Just kind of worked out perfectly. I started with them in spring of 2018. They were looking for some guys to just write PGA news for the Masters. At that time, Rotoballer had one guy doing an article a week. So I took the opportunity to write news over there and started talking with one of the co-founders, Alex Roberts, about growing the PGA content, because I really felt like it was something that was about to blow up. And luckily for me, they were really awesome and open to ideas. So I started writing a Horse for the Course article. It's kind of grown from there, man. Now we're up to, we got 4 or 5 guys writing for us every week. Have a premium offering, lineup builder, research station, optimizer, all kinds of articles, betting articles. So really proud of the product we've been able to put together over there at Rotoballer.
So you're the horse for the course guy. I love the way you say that too, with your Tennessee drawl. Do you normally go with who you think are horse for the course on your betting card? Or how do you make your betting card each week? What are you using for your bets?
Well, I wish it was more scientific than it is. I use a lot of stats for DFS. Obviously, you guys know I'm huge into DFS, but betting wise, I kind of go more feel than I do statistical or scientific or numbers. I want to check the odds out each week, and I want to look down through there, and I want something to pop out at me. So that's kind of how, personally I do it, more based on feel.
Well, did anything pop out to you this week when you opened the board? Have you even had a chance to look at it? It's only 5 o'clock on Monday here.
Yeah, I got to look at it a little bit today. Check Bovada out. Hadn't really got to check my local out yet, which is always worse. But
Yeah.
a couple guys popped out at me. I really like JT this week. A little disappointed to see him at 12-1. I don't usually like to dip down that low, but I am interested in JT. A couple guys there in that 28 to 35 range jumped out. Berger, just because he does have great course history. He's won here twice before. He's been playing really well this year. Obviously won back at the Charles Schwab. So he jumped out at me at 28. Brooks Koepka is really interesting, sitting there at 33. A lot of question marks around him this week, but it's interesting. And another one that jumped out there, Matt Fitzpatrick at 33-1, kind of an interesting player to me. And then obviously there's some other guys kind of more up the board that kind of popped out, but those are the main ones kind of in the lower range that I liked initially.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Joe, because the tour kind of makes its way into your territory down to Memphis and Tennessee this week.
Yeah.
Have you ever played the course? And if either way, what type of player do you think it lends itself to fade?
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to get out there. It's in Memphis. I'm in Knoxville. I'm kind of on the opposite end of Tennessee, so it's all the way across the state for me. So I hadn't had a chance to get out there to the course. But to answer your other question, I'm looking at ball strikers, man. This course is really going to test these players tee to green. I want guys that hit it well off the tee, find fairways, hit a lot of greens. Ton of water on this course. We see a lot of water balls every year here. I think there's almost 100 bunkers. So definitely looking for guys that are just really sharp ball strikers, good at finding fairways, good at finding greens.
Well, so we're back at the same venue, TPC Southwind, but it's a different time of year. How hot is it there? Are you sweating when you're doing this in front of your light?
Man, I'm not kidding, guys. I've lived here my whole life. I'm almost 40, and I don't think I ever remember a continuous 2-week stretch that it's been this hot. And Memphis is going to even be hotter. There's more humidity down there, so it's going to be brutal. I mean, it's going to feel like over 100 every day.
Do you think it makes a difference that they're going to be playing in California next week? Are guys going to be fatigued here halfway through? They're out of it because this is a no-cut event, 36 holes in. They don't care anymore. Do you think they're going to eject button, hit a withdraw, fly to Cali, get in that cold wind, or not?
it's definitely something to think about, man. I mean, I think these guys are professionals. They don't like to do that, and we honestly don't see it a lot. But I mean, just to throw a name out there, a guy like DJ, who we've seen had some kind of crazy stuff going on the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's a guy you could see. And another thing that makes this tricky is it's a WGC. So once they hit a shot, they're getting paid this week, which kind of throws another little wrinkle in there. But yeah, a guy like DJ, maybe some guys we've seen with some injury stuff going on. I mean, I don't look for it to be prevalent, but it's definitely a concern.
So the biggest thing, with it being a WGC, obviously we get a little bit of a smaller field. We get a little bit of an influx of some international players. But the main thing that's different is the no cut, right? How does that affect how we should be handicapping or approaching this event?
Well, it makes it tough because it's a smaller field, but it's a field full of elite players, right? So, and when looking back at not just this event, but all WGCs, I mean, we see some heavy hitters winning. Rory, Brooks, Tiger won a ton, DJ, guys like that. So it makes you want to look at a more elite class of player. But from a betting perspective, those guys, we're not getting great odds on them this week, which makes it kind of difficult. It's one of those things, if there's a guy you really, really love, maybe take a stand on there in the short odds range. But you feel like with this field, it's going to be an elite player that comes out at the end of the week.
Well, now go back to TPC Southwind. We've had this course in the rotation. It was just a regular tour event. They've made it a WGC, so the course history is kind of skewed. Does that make a difference to you? Are you worried about the fact that some people are horsed for the course, but it was against a bad field?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough this week. It's not like a general week where we're just going to pull up and we can look back, 5-10 years and not give it a ton of thought other than, hey, this guy's played really well here. Like you said, this was just kind of a regular tour event. Back in the day, it was the week before the U.S. Open, which is kind of similar to this. But we didn't see near the caliber of field, and that's probably why a lot of these guys didn't play this event because it was the week before the U.S. Open. So yeah, to answer your question, it's tricky. A lot of these guys first saw this course last year when it did become a WGC. So there's not a ton of course history with a lot of these guys. The guys that do have course history weren't playing against this caliber of field. So you're definitely juggling a lot of things this week.
So Joe, Chad had me on the Fantasy Golf Pod way back in the day and asked me if I bet the same players that I play in DFS. And my answer is I've come to find that I don't do that at all. I tend to bet a certain pool of guys, and it seems like every week my DraftKings lineups are a whole different set of players. How do you kind of do it yourself? If you like a guy, do you ride him in both, or do you approach two of them totally separate?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar to you on that, Joe. Sometimes obviously I'll bet a guy and have a ton of him in DraftKings because I like him that much. But what I find myself doing a lot of times, a few weeks ago was a great example. I think at the Rocket Mortgage, Bryson DeChambeau was like 6-1 or 8-1 or something.
Right.
And I'm just never gonna bet a guy at that number. So I really liked him, but I didn't bet him, so I just loaded up in DFS. And sometimes it's the opposite. I remember back at Charles Schwab, the first tournament after the break, Jordan Spieth was kind of getting talked up. It looked like he was going to be a pretty popular option. I'm like, man, I don't know about that, but I think he was at like 40-1. So I bet him, laid off of him in DFS. So I'll kind of use that to hedge sometimes if I like a guy, but I don't feel like going all in, pushing all my chips in the middle. I'll maybe play him in DFS and not bet him, or vice versa.
Well, are you hedging your outrights with top 10s too? How do you pick your top 10 guys? Are you betting top 10s, top 20s?
I'm not a big top 10, top 20 guy, just because the money doesn't really make it worth it for me. I'm willing to grind DFS, but betting, I want to try to hit a big lick. I like betting first round leaders. It's just fun for me. You can throw $5-10 on a guy and have a really good week. So I don't spend a ton of time on top 10s and top 20s. Sometimes I'll do some in-tournament matchups, like I think there's an advantage there. But usually I'm outright saying first round leaders.
So back to this week, you touched on him a little bit earlier. I bet Brooks Koepka this week, 33-1, big number, defending champion here, coming in with pretty poor form. You know, he just seems to be off in certain areas. What do you do with that number? You on Brooks this week?
I do like Brooks. You know, just as a look, because we really don't know. I think he's the most interesting storyline of the week, because he has played well here. He was actually one of the few guys on the field that regularly played this tournament before it was a WGC.
Yes.
He's had some success here, won last year. But yeah, he's just not the Brooks we're used to seeing. I watched a lot of him last week in Minnesota. I watched a ton of his second round, trying to just get a feel for where he's at. He actually hit the ball really well last week. The best
Putted terrible.
Ball. Yeah, he lost like over 5 strokes putting. So that kind of makes me interested at this number, 33-1. We know he's a big game hunter. We know he flips the switch. So you have to feel like he's going to try to be gearing up. If it's possible for him, he's going to try to be gearing up for next week. So yeah, Joe, definitely interested at Brooks there at that number.
So you talked about Bryson, and you know, top price guy, betting favorite. They don't always come through, and it costs you a lot to get them. Do you do that ever? Are you going to use Jon Rahm at all this week?
I'm not this week. I think Rahm's a really nice player. I think he'll play well, but I rarely will go there with those guys. I mean, there are exceptions. Sometimes I really feel it in my heart, you know, and I'm willing to bite the bullet and take a guy at a short number. But I won't have any Rahm this week, just because of the odds.
What about a guy, you know, typically a great DFS player every week, but a terrible bet every week? What do you do with Tony Finau?
Man, you had to bring up Tony Finau. Oh man, I'm like emotionally attached to Tony. I don't know why. I try to not be.
You want to root for the guy, right? It's like,
man, I started playing. I guess it was like 2016 or 2017, whenever it was that I started playing DFS. Nobody could pronounce Tony Finau's name. Brooks was the same way. I was rostering those guys every single week, like Brooks and Tony. So maybe that's why I feel emotionally attached to Tony. But to answer your question, man, I've bet him tons of times, and it just he has the talent to win, but he just cannot get there. So the number on him always feels juicy. It always feels great. But it just kind of always ends in heartbreak. So yeah, to answer your question, I like the number, but I don't know if I can go there because I just don't know if I'm emotionally ready for it.
Well, Joe, before we get you out of here, we need one answer from you. Who is your preferred play of the week?
My preferred play of the week is the guy I think that's going to win this week. I think he's going to win this week or next week. It's Justin Thomas.
yes.
12-1. I don't love the number, but I'm willing to go there. He's so close, man, playing so well. This course should suit him because he doesn't really have any weaknesses in his game, other than catching a cold putter every now and then, which you can't predict. But yeah, my preferred play of the week's JT.
Love it.
All right. Well, the Joes are on JT.
Yep, I'm on there too, and I'm on him next week as well.
All right,
I'm
yeah,
all
man.
in on
It's
JT,
coming,
man.
It's coming this week and next, man.
Yep.
Tell us where we can find you and how we'd pay you money to read your articles.
You can. My Twitter is at Joe Nicely. Easy to find, just my name. You can go to rotoballer.com. We're doing a PGA Premium, an awesome deal. You can use promo code NICE, NICE. And get our PGA Premium for the rest of the year for $50. You can't beat it, man.
Oh, that's chill. Sweet. Well, thank you again. We'll see you soon. We'll have you back on between Christina, Kim, and some other guys.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you have Tiger, I'll be the guy the week after Tiger.
Love it. Or Mayo.
Thanks, Joe,
I have
man.
to bump
Take
you
care.
for Mayo on the Fantasy Golf Pod too.
Yeah, Mayo. I'm always around these guys that you can't follow.
You did a great.
But Joe, you're the man.
Appreciate
I appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thank you all.
Take care, buddy.
All right.
Okay, well, Thank you, Joe. Couple of Joes.
Good guy. Good guy. Great to speak with Joe.
Shall we
Let's make the turn.
Let's crack some beers and crack open the board.
Going claw this week. It's a new week.
I like that. Maybe not beers, but claws. Whatever. It's fine.
Coors Light, too. You're going light, too.
Well, it's 2 p.m. We're doing this quite early today.
Yeah.
This afternoon, you can find at the tippity tip top of the betting board, world number 1, John Rahm Rodriguez. 9-1 for John Rahm. Wow, under 10-1 in this field for anybody is crazy. Let's look at who is under 20-1. You got 5 names. Rahm, 9-1. Rory, 11-1 right there. Bryson, beefy Bryson, and JT also there, 12-1. Can't lay it, 16-1. Any interest in these guys under 20-1? Because we know, Joe, these no-cut events, these short field WGCs, they typically yield quality winners. The cream rises to the top. Will someone from the top of the board be the best bet of the week when it is said and done? What do you think?
Well, I took a guy up here. My guy is Justin Thomas. I think he had the Memorial was we could kind of see that letdown coming after losing in the playoff. Still doesn't disregard his current form much because he's playing extremely well. He's kind of got a little bit of a local narrative. He's a Louisville, Kentucky guy, I believe. So it's kind of in his neck of the woods. I think he spent some time there. I'm not sure his caddy situation, if his dad's still going to be on the bag or if his normal caddy is still under the weather. I wasn't sure exactly what happened there, but it doesn't matter. He's Justin Thomas. He's one of the top 1, 2, or 3 players in the world. I took a 12-1 on him. I have a huge ticket next week at the PGA Championship on him from a double that I made back at the Tournament of Champions. So this is kind of a little bit of a hedge to myself because I don't want him to win this week and feel like I totally missed it. Taking him 12-1, I still feel like it's a good bet up there. I looked a little bit at Rory and Bryson as well, but ended up on JT. You got anybody up here?
I don't, because I don't know if you want one of the names up here. I like the names that are in the middle of the ranges, but I got to ask you, do you think that people will want to win this opposed to next week? Or would they want to go into next week with like a T5 here? Are they trying to blow their load on the WGC? That's what I'm trying to say. Are they going to try to save a little energy, save some for the major? Or is it all the same?
It's hard for me to really speak to. I think it depends somewhat on the individual player. That said, you're never going out there trying to really hold anything back in terms of when you're going to play golf. You want to play the best game you can possibly play. Look, these guys want to win. It's a giant purse. It's a WGC. It's a meaningful trophy. You have the St. Jude narrative as well, which I know is important to a lot of these players. I think all these guys are going out there to win. Now, should they find themselves out of contention in the bottom half of the leaderboard on Friday or so, it may be a different story. But I think their goal going into the week is to go out there and win.
Right, and we know, Joe, it's pretty much comes down when you're an elite player is if you got your putter that week or you don't. And that's
sure.
So they're going to show up and try to have their driver dialed, have their irons dialed, wedge well, and if their putter's hot, then they know that that's their week. That's what happens. So
yeah, we saw it last year. I think Brooks gained. I was looking at the stats earlier, gained like 9 strokes putting, which is insane. But any of these players at the top, you see those kind of putting stats, it typically leads to a win.
So, Joe, my thought about the top of the board, they're just the flashy household names, the ones that everybody at home knows about. But are they any more or less talented than the next group of names?
I don't know if it's a talent thing, but they definitely in at a higher rate, I would say, especially when you look at, Rory, Rahm, JT, Bryson, stacking together every season and sometimes multiple times a season. You start to drift down into the 20s. You have guys at similar ability level. They just haven't always closed the deal at quite the same rate.
Well, they're closing the deal in the 20s so far this season. If you look right there in the 20s, you got Webb Simpson, who's a winner a couple times already. Xander, a WGC king. I mean, he's the man at WGCs at no-cut events. He's 20-1. Morikawa, a winner just now. Hovland, competing every week, 25-1. Those guys. Berger, winner. DJ, winner, 28-1. Hatton, winner, 28-1. Hideki, No, but the 20s, they're yielding winners. Come on, man. Don't give these guys any less credit. I like this range a lot more.
I think that they're yielding winners, but where are they yielding winners is the thing. We haven't seen Xander necessarily with that big win. Look, his record at no cut events is substantial. It's you cannot ignore it. 14th, second, 27th, the last 5 no cut events that he's played in. It's unbelievable. I took him this week, but some of the other guys, you got Morikawa and Hovland. The Puerto Rico Open and the Barracuda are not WGC events. So I'm not counting those necessarily as big time.
Well, the workday.
In the workday. Sorry, I forgot the workday.
No, and then, okay, Berger's won this course twice, and he's here at 28, and he's basically played really well. Any interest in Berger?
I didn't take him. I don't necessarily have a reason why. I just didn't take him this week. It's been a while since he won here. I think they took a couple of years off. Is that correct? And then they came back last year.
Yeah, like they went to I don't know what they did. I don't know. Firestone or
they went to Firestone. Yeah.
So, all right, Joe.
What do you have in this range?
Last week, and it happens a lot actually. EVR ruined everybody. The groupthink mentality. It just takes people down. You know why there's groupthink and why everyone kind of goes towards one name? Well, it's because they need reasons, Joe. We need reasons. And sometimes there's just reasons for guys, and the industry falls for those people. Or do we really need reasons? Because sometimes, Joe, the reason is that there's no reason at all. Look at last week, Michael Thompson. You got CH3. Someone was telling me, I'm going to bet on CH3. I'm like, that is a waste of money. And then I see him leading. He's almost going to win. I'm like, oh, God. Out of nowhere, things happen. And we see it right here, 28-1 again for DJ. Maybe there isn't, or maybe there is reasons to click or not click 28-1 DJ. But I think there's reason enough to go for DJ. So I'm back on DJ, 28-1. He had his hangover. We know it after he won. Look, Joe, look in the mirror, point at yourself, and laugh if you think and you thought he was going to show up and care about the 3M Open.
Right.
Also, point and look at yourself and laugh if you think he's actually hurt and withdrew because of an actual back problem. We know that's not true because he just
not 3 straight in the 18th.
He was having an interview, Joe. He said,
yeah.
La 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 la. Words were spoken, but nothing about his back. Turned around, said, I am now going to withdraw. Why? Because of my back. Dude, you just spoke to the media and you said nothing about your back. And now you're citing your back. BS. Guy's a fraud. And he won at TPC Southern at this kind of event or whatever at 2018. And he won this WGC a couple years ago. He's won a lot of WGCs. He cares. You need to get DJ. These guys that have won, 20 sometimes, almost 30 times on tour. He doesn't care about the 3M Open, lifting that circle trophy at the Rocket Mortgage. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the crystals of the WGCs, and he cares about majors and things like that. He needed the rest. He barely cared to show up. He was there because Paulina wanted to go on Lake Minnetonka with Brooks's girlfriend. That's what it was.
Hey, look, there's always a spot for a hot take, and that is that's what. No, but look, I think you're serious. I'm not concerned one millibit about the back. He definitely just had 3 poor shots on number 18, something we saw guys do many times this weekend. It was a hole that kind of made or break people, it seemed. Maybe reaching into that bag to grab another ball kind of threw his back out a little bit. But no, look, he's DJ. We know that he's got a short-term memory. This is not going to affect him mentally one bit if he shows up with his game and, most importantly, with the right putter, because he likes to rotate like 4 of them in the bag every week. So if he's got one that's working for him, he's going to be in contention. I'm not betting him, though.
No, I mean, 28-1, I got to do it. It's the number right there. And I like Hovland at 25-1. He could pop and come through. He's played really well. So Victor Hovland, I don't know, 25-1 is interesting. But my card, the majority of it, it's going to be filled with the names in the 30 to 50 range in the middle of the board. Let's see. Depending on the book you use, you could find guys in the 30s, including Tommy Fleetwood at 30-1. You got Brooks Koepka, 33, Patrick Reed, Fitzpatrick, Finau at 33, Woodland, Day at 40, 45 for Horschel, Spieth, and Sergio, and then an Answer, Leishman at 50, and Sergio at 55. Man, I like these names. They got win equity. Are you going to pepper this area?
You know who's got win equity? Brooks Koepka. I'm in on Brooks. Look, enough is fucking enough. All right, Brooks. It's time to man up and play some good golf. Look, it seems like something is crushing him every week. Last week it was the putting. The week before that it was the approach. He, I think, takes a certain pride in sort of defending at an event. We've seen it with the U.S. Open. We've seen it with the PGA Championship. Coming back to a place that he's won. Back on Bermuda grass, which is familiar with him. Typically this tournament as well, I've noticed that the winner has come in sort of that 10 under to 15 under range. So guys aren't quite going as ridiculously low as we've seen in some of these past events. I don't think a winner at minus 22 suits Brooks's game. A winner at minus 14 or 15 is much more in his wheelhouse. The no cut, I think, as well, may relieve a little bit of pressure off of his shoulders. I don't know what it is, but it seems like he's flirting right with that cut line. And it's like maybe taking these shots too seriously down the stretch instead of just feeling free and loose and going and playing golf, which was when he was playing at his best. 33-1. Look, I know the books are going to adjust the numbers the following week for the PGA Championship, but I think he's like 12 or 13-1 next week. You're getting triple the number essentially this week. I'm in on him. Like I said, enough is enough. Let's go, Brooks. Man up. Let's play some golf. Who you got?
I want to reiterate. I mean, we heard all the right things from Brooks last week. It sounded like he was motivated to do well, and he just fucked up on his putter and like couldn't find these. I mean, it's like I go to the Dwan, I go to these slow greens, and I'm just like, this is stupid to even putt on because I can't. It's not even helping my game because I'm going to go to the next tournament and it's going to be terrible. So
look, you've got Hatton, Fitzpatrick, Finau, Hovland, Morikawa. These guys at the same or lower odds than a 4-time major champion and a guy who's coming back to the WGC that he won last year. I think he's going to be a very popular pick this week, which scares me a lot because like we talked about with Eric Van Rooyen and whoever it was the week before, as soon as you see 6 or 7 guys in the industry all on one player, it never ends right. We know that.
But they've been on Brooks for weeks. It's all been Brooks for weeks.
They kind of have. I'm not passing up on it. I was on him once before and I was wrong, but I've kind of eased into Brooks as we resume the season here. I'm in this week. Heavy bet. Brooks Koepka, 33-1. It's in.
Okay. You could go with a killer, a winner, someone else who's at 33-1 that cares. Patrick Reed.
I like that. If I didn't take Brooks, that's where I would go.
I actually do like Gary Woodland the most in this range at 40-1. I'm that just feels strange at 40-1. They just keep him at 40-1. That's what his number is. And he's played super consistent since the return. He almost was in contention basically every week that he's been out.
Yeah,
so I like Gary Woodland.
His game is in a great place right now. He doesn't necessarily win at the same clip as I would like him to, but his iron play and his approach play have been unbelievable since the restart. I think he switched drivers at the Memorial or the Work Day or whatever one that was, and his strokes gained off the tee went through the roof, and he showed huge improvement in not only distance but accuracy off the tee. It really comes down to Gary with his putter. It's been much improved. It's a good number. It's a fair number. I didn't take it this week, but what number did you get him at? Was it 40?
40.
Okay, I like that.
I also have a 50 on Answer that I'm happy with. I think that's fine. It's another guy that's kind of under the radar. My thoughts on Answer, he's kind of like the poor man's Xander. He doesn't get any respect. He's talented enough to break through. He's just like a little guy, and he's, not the cute, like, name brand DJ or Brooks. He's not the Brainiac pedigree of, like, the JT or Cantlay. He's kind of just got his own game. We all know Answer loves hot weather. That's the thing. It's going to be sweaty there in Memphis. So 50-1, this is the type of win Answer breaks out here while everybody else is more just focused on next week. And this is something that maybe those guys, those younger guys who I have in my long shots coming up here, but Answer too at 50, it feels fair.
Yeah, ever since I think that President's Cup is where us guys who follow golf weekly have known about him for a long time, but I think he really stepped onto the scene as a major player at that President's Cup when he essentially was one of the best, if not the best player on that international team. He's still kind of flirting in that 50 range because he hasn't won, but I can see once he gets that breakthrough win, he's going to be priced right there with sort of the Finaus and the more, he's going to be in the 20 to 30 range. So it's a fair number. I like it.
And then you could look at Jason Day at 40-1. He's had his share of decent showings, and he had a T5 last time out. Listen, that might mean he's done and blew it, and that's maybe time to not get on it. But 40, I don't know, he could win easily. And then Sergio too at 50-1. I've watched and been following because I have an inkling that he's due to win. Sergio is somebody that takes these things seriously, doesn't care about hoisting lame trophies too. So he could focus here, could show up. He's only been bad with the putter. That's all he needs is one good putting week, and Sergio pops 50-1.
Yeah, this has been a great range to kind of target. I'm off of it a little bit this week just because I've got JT, Xander, and Brooks so far. I'm considering Webb Simpson, but I'm just kind of going to forego this 40-1 range and move on to the next sort of level.
Okay, and I like a lot of the 66 plus. We call those the long shots. And each week you can find Joe giving his long shots. Well, you haven't been doing the long shot live lunch drive.
I skipped a week a couple weeks back, but I did them last week. We'll get them going. Sometimes it's hard to manage doing this and the long shot video and the card and all the different things with a toddler and a 6-month-old at home.
And real job.
But we're working on things. But I do have a pick here at 66-1, and I'm back in on Wolf. I think he played really good last week.
Wait, so you got it at 66? I think you can get it at 80 too.
Yeah, you can. He was on.
He's down to 66 on that one.
Yeah. But I took him on the other one actually at 80. We were just using the BV numbers. I would still take it at 66. But look, I don't see a reason. His form is fantastic. I love to see him sort of make that charge last week. I love his aggressiveness. I think the course, when you look at previous winners, guys who bomb it, and you look at the prototype of the player who's won at this course, he fits that mold somewhat better than – it just irks me a little bit. So I know Morikawa and Hovland are sort of on their own level, but it just like it has to piss him off to a degree too. And these guys are 25-1 and he's 80-1. So last 3 starts, all right, average of their last 3 starts, Wolf's average finish is 12th. Colin Morikawa's average finish is 37th. And Victor Hovland's average finish is 21st. He's playing better than both of them in the last 3 times out. He was close at – where did we have him? Where do we have him? He almost won.
At the Morgan – or no.
At the Rocket Mortgage, yeah. Anyways, hit it far. Go get it, Matthew. He's a winner. Love his attitude. 80-1. For the Wolf fan?
I'm a big Wolf fan. I'm part of the Wolf Pack, but at the same time, I've seen how they'll throw up the stats on PGA golf channel, and they'll say approach Hovland, Morikawa, Wolf, terrible, or and then every stat is like stats, but they're just going by stats. Now, if you're trying to go like, hey, this dude's trying to put the tee in the ground and smash the ball and go play, I feel like Wolf has that mentality that he'll just step up his game and play, whereas the other two, Morikawa and Hovland, are more like mechanical, and they're more just like they do stats more. I don't know if that makes sense.
They're going to crush him in stats, but the only stat I care about is does he fucking win, right?
Yes.
He does. He's done it in college. He was better than them his entire life until they all of a sudden hit the PGA Tour last year, and these guys started throwing ball striking stats through the roof. And, oh, my God, Victor Hovland has gained the most strokes on approach forever. But he fucking doesn't win, man. I like Wolf. I love his attitude. He's going to go for it down the stretch. He's not afraid of anybody. I think he's like a little bit talkative, noticing him on that thing on Wednesday. But the thing is he's comfortable. His coach is with him. George Gankus is with him. He loves his caddy. It's one of his best friends. He's having a good time out there. He's enjoying this sort of rise to fame somewhat. He's enjoying the spotlight, and he's not afraid of it.
Oh yeah, he's totally
80
the
to 1.
next DJ. I do like that young narrative. I like Neiman at 80 to 1. I also like, and I'm gonna go back to my boy Sung J M at 80 to 1. How great is that number? 80 to 1 on him in a field of 70 people? I love it.
It's a good number. I took it, I think, at the same thing a couple weeks ago, and he let me down. And you kind of tried to talk me off of it a little bit. It's just not making
Joe,
birdies at the same range.
he needed rest.
Yeah, okay.
Not just necessarily like he doesn't rest. I mean, he's constantly grinding. We can see him when he's not even in the tournament, putting on the practice green. But at the same time, I think, Sung Jae needed that break, that mental break, because what was happening is he knew he needed the break, so then he's pressing, and then that it continued to kind of downward spiral. So I feel like maybe both this week and next week, these are solid chances for Sung Jae to show himself on the national scene. This is the guy that we all have seen and have heard about. People, if he plays a practice round with anybody and they interview that person after the round, they say, "Oh yeah, Im is poised. It's like basically the most solid iron player I've ever seen in my life. Sung Jae Im is basically a robot. You think Hideki's a robot? Oh my gosh, this Sung Jae Im kid." Like, we've been hearing about this for years, even more so than the Morikawa and the Hovland. Like, this guy is the one. And he just recently won at the Honda before COVID. He was on fire, but he stumbled, and then he pressed, and then he got tired. At 80 to 1 now, let's go. I think this is the moment. Get on it at 80 to 1. I'll be not shocked at all if Im is holding the trophy at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a big number. We're back at a par 70 where he won. We're back at a course that plays a little bit tougher where he won, like the Honda. I think he would probably tell you he maybe made a mistake in grinding a little bit too hard over the pandemic. It's just he probably wore himself out, right? He probably hit the wall at some point coming off that win. You look at the other guys who came out and won. Berger, he was probably on the straight vibe and vote, fishing for snook off the Atlantic here. You got DJ, like he was really practicing that hard over the break. It's just, I don't think he needed to work that hard. I think it's just in his part of ingrained in who he is. He's got like a sleeping bag at the driving range he's probably been staying at, but it's a good number. I'm not quite there on him yet. I do have a big future ticket on him at the PGA next week and a solid number, but I can see why you bet him, all the reasons leading up to it. But I think he just hit the wall. I think that you can only play really, really good golf sustain that for a certain period of time. I think we talked about it on the first episode of how that was going to affect him. And we've seen, the trickle down of some missed cuts here and some poor performances coming off of it.
You can go longer, and you can go to 100 to 1 at Kevin Na. I kind of like it because of his just ability to get it done. He gets it done sometimes, and he can show up on these kind of course. Ryan Palmer at 100. That just doesn't seem right to me. 125 to 1 on Ryan Palmer. He's just second.
I'm not in on Palmer. The thing you said about Kevin Na, for some reason, I look at Kevin Na's name and I always just blast right through it. I don't necessarily know why, because he wins and he's actually, when he doesn't withdraw, has been playing pretty well. But I blasted right through it onto another guy who can't putt, unlike Kevin Na, and usually doesn't win. But I took Paul Casey at 100 to 1. It was just a number thing. Look, he was, I think, in the teens last week at the event. Didn't play great. You look at his long-term stats, and he rates out really well. He's just a good player. I've heard some comps to this course to the Travelers as well, and I kind of see it and in the length and how it can be very penal off the tee with some of the water. Par 70, he's won twice there. 100 to 1 was just stuck out to me right off the bat when I saw it on Paul Casey, so I took it.
Okay, I mean, Shane Lowry too, a guy that can show up at big events, and his number was big. Where is it? 150 to 1? That's crazy to me.
It's a big number on Lowry.
Dude, if you're going to like the Hovland, the Wolf, the Neiman, the Morikawa, and you're going to also just do all those young names, and you might as well pick Cameron Champ, dude.
Yeah.
What do I got him? 150 to 1? What the hell?
Take that?
Yeah, I'm going to buck on that, dude. Well. I think we know this guy is he has the pedigree. He's the one that could be the next DJ. And we know how DJ loves WGCs. Maybe Cameron Champ will just show up at these events. He's a real stud.
He's got 2 wins now in his young career. So when he shows up and the putter is working, he's proven that he can win. They weren't the strongest of fields. Not necessarily sure if he's ready for WGC. The only other bet I made in this triple-digit range was I took Matt Wallace 110-1. I saw something at Memorial. I've just kind of seen him trending in the right direction. You know, he had the tremendous year on the European Tour, and then he came over and he took his lumps. He took a little beating when he first came onto the PGA Tour. I've seen that kind of trend turn around. He's driving the ball really well. He hits it a long way. He's hitting it in the fairways. His approach numbers haven't been there, and he's been putting off the charts. So I took him here at 110-1. I posted a couple of weeks ago. I took a number at the PGA Championship, 175-1 on him. I think the PGA last year at Bethpage, he finished like 3rd, which was one of his better finishes here. So in on Wallace, it's the only other sort of triple-digit, range. So I just Casey and Wallace up there for me. Going to dial back the long shots a little bit this week and maybe top 10, top 20 range, just because WGCs, they typically come from the best players in the world.
I found 200-1 Cameron Smith to be a misprice for someone who's a winner.
It is. He's a winner, and he's another President's Cup guy that played really well. He's got a win early in the season that I think a lot of people forget about. As we first started right after the tournament champions, was the Sony?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So he's got a win on his record this year. He's a great player. He seems to always be mispriced when he's in the 200 and 300-1 range because he wins.
Now, again, this is probably something you'd take a buck or two on that, and then you hedge it maybe on Saturday or Sunday if he's in contention with somebody that's actually going to win. Or you don't do 200-1 on Cameron Smith. You just take him to top 20 at like 5-10-1 or whatever it is.
That's probably the better bet, yeah.
Anyway, should we recap our preferred plays of the week? Because I have a few. You might have to hear them again. It's DJ at 28-1. Brooks, I'm with you, 33-1. I got Reed, APPR, always, well, ABPR, always bet Patrick Reed, 33-1. 40-1, Gary Woodland, one of my favorite bets of the week. I feel like that's a great number for someone with just as good of a win equity as everyone else. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fool. 50-1 on Answer. This is his moment to break out. And then on Im. I'm all in on Im at 80. Yourself?
So I've got Justin Thomas at 12-1. I took Xander at 22-1. I took Brooks at 33-1. Wolf, Casey 100, and Wallace at 110-1. That's what I got right now. May add one sort of in the middle range or in the 30s. Was looking a little bit at Tommy Fleetwood. We didn't talk about him, but a missed cut last week I think wasn't the worst thing for him.
There's no way he was making that cut. We knew Tommy was showing up just to get a couple tournament rounds in.
And he had a good finish here last year. It's just he needs that win, man. And I root for Tommy. I want to see him do it. But that's what I got right now. May add to it later in the week, but that's it. Those are my plays.
What about the CUDA, the Barracuda? That's another.
Should we talk about the CUDA?
Well, I got 4 bets. I actually bet on some names.
Let's hear it.
Well, Sammy Burns, dude, I had him last week at 50 or whatever at a real tournament, and this is the CUDA. And he's 25. So Sammy Burns, let's get a breakthrough win on Sam Burns. Grillo, too, has played too well for 28-1 on Emiliano Grillo. I'm going to do that. He's been striking it. All he has to do is putt it. This thing, he could fire it at the hole because it's a Stableford score. He doesn't have to actually tap it down there and care, and he'll just go for eagles. Cameron Davis, another guy with 50-1, he'll go for eagles. And Maverick McNeely at 50-1. Those feel like really fair numbers.
Yeah, the CUDA may actually be a fun sweat this week. I think so. I have some interest. It's at the very top of the board, but it's 18-1, which doesn't necessarily feel like the top. But Henley piques my interest a lot because I bet him some weeks, and I know that he's playing well. A couple of guys at 75-1 that I took who played well last week: Denny McCarthy, Nick Watney, official members of the COVID CC. But Look, good putters. If they can get hot, I looked at Josh Perry's notes on the course, and it's going to play extremely short. There's drivable par fours. Every par five is reachable for every player in the field. So with Stableford, you're going to need some eagles. You want guys who can make a putt. You want if they can get there. So I like Denny. Let's go.
Okay. Get hot, Denny. All right. Well, thanks to Joe Nicely for making an appearance. And we're excited for next week. We got a PGA Championship, the major, baby. So we may come out early. You may get us on Sunday night instead of Monday night. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, fired up for next week. Cannot wait for Harding Park. And we have a very special guest lined up next week. We'll tease that out in the middle of the week here once we confirm a time. But we're going to try to get it out Sunday night. Give you guys a little extra so your morning commute on Monday, hopefully you can give us a listen. Check us out. Subscribe, rate, review, and you never know. We've got some towels left. We might send you a towel if you leave a nice review. I'm checking those out.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for watching, listening, and doing all that. See you next week.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.